It's today after that late goal?
Yeah, it always is when you're 1-0 up and a late goal. Again, we've had a few of them at Wadham Road, and we could have been quite a few more points up the table because of but for late goals. But that's what happens with teams. If you do go 1-0 up, then teams are going to bombard you even more than they were anyway, which they did. And of course, you saw their game. You saw why it was very difficult to get a grip of the game either side. It was just up and down because of the surface at the minute, and they got their goal late on through persistence of keep putting the ball in there, and we only needed to defend another minute, but we didn't. So I'm disappointed with that. Disappointed really that we didn't get enough shots, opportunities, because when we do get up the other end, we've got to create more, that's for sure. Difficult, but we've got to create more and get more numbers up there and try and get that quality into the box. We must have had 25 set plays, didn't find one of our men, and that was a bit disappointing, so I've got to look at that. So 1 point, disappointed it's not free, but we got to keep going.
Do you have to look at the week as a whole though and think that 4 points from the two matches actually isn't a bad return over the week?
Well, maybe, and Newport are one of the. I know it seems strange, but because of the game they're playing, it's one of them that they're fighting for every point. They're picking up points with that game, and I know that percentage game very well because obviously Cambridge did it a few years ago with John Baker and myself, so and you have to deal with it, but then you have to show that little bit of quality that goes on and win games, and actually the bit of quality was their goal, and so it's unfortunate, and I'm very disappointed, but I'm trying not to be too down just yet.
You predicted an ugly game before the match. There was a lot of what I would call 50-50 or fight ball during the game, wasn't there?
Well, both teams had to be up for it. As you saw, if you wasn't up for it, then you get beat up by the opposition, and we were definitely that. There was nothing in it at half time, but not a lot happening either. Just a lot of endeavour, and everything was a tackle and a mid-air challenge, and you got to be up for that. And basically we was, but unfortunately on the day we just didn't have that quality in the final third to create enough chances to win the game.
We'll talk about Kyle's goal in a moment, but as the match was going towards the last 5 minutes of normal time and then into stoppage time, were you concerned that you were dropping very deep and that was kind of inviting pressure?
Well, yeah, I think that's sort of like a natural thing that they players do sometimes when you're 1-0 up and opposition throw caution to the wind, and then the goalie comes up and all sorts of shenanigans go on, and that's the same when any team's 1-0 down. But the team that's 1-0 up should be keeping the ball longer than what we kept it, no matter what the pitch surface is. We had to get quality up to the forwards, get hold of it, and then we had to keep it up there and see the game out at that end. But in hindsight, it didn't happen for us. So, but we picked up another point, and I know people will be disappointed with that, but we'll keep going. Some of them, I thought the big lad at the back there for his first ever league game did well. He did what he had to do, a quiet efficiency, so I was pleased with that. But it's our forward play by the team, not just the forwards, but our forward play that wasn't enough today. There was no threat.
Carl's goal was an opportunist effort, wasn't it? Dan making something out of nothing with an effort that hit the post, and then Carl getting onto it first and making sure he hit the target.
Yeah, that was the first time we sort of read something in the penalty area. It was a good little flick by Dan Ullman, and unlucky for it not to go in, and then it was good that Carl read that it might, and at least he got in there and didn't stand outside the box, and he deserved it for that incident. So that's how you score goals, you read things, but we didn't do enough of that. We didn't get the ball enough up there anyway in the penalty area, and with good play to be doing that much. We wasn't a constant threat on the day, but it was a constant battle. That's what it was today, and both teams got a point each.
Just two more from me. Plavetic, you made, again, the pre-match you said, look, he's 6'7", and there was one very important header in the second half where he was in the right place when Scott Brown would not have reached that one Newport effort.
No, it was just under the bar, and I think he needed to be 6'7" to clear it, which he did. A little fella throws his arms up there, and it's a goal against you, and a sending off. But anyway, he was in the right place at the right time, and it helped us get in the lead. But what's going to be in my mind is the last 5 or 10 minutes where they bombarded us and we couldn't keep it up the other end. Funny enough, we had a couple of half chances when Wrighty went through and Diego got through, but they defended stoutly and then got it in our box.
Lastly then, I mean, below you today, Orient lost, Crewe lost. So, it's not as good as it might have been, but it's not as bad as perhaps you're painting it to be.
Well, that's true. I mean, of course, you have to look at that, and we've still got some more cup finals to come. We're Notts County at the weekend, but you got to be disappointed. We got to be disappointed with today's game. Of course, we have, but we'll get over it, and we'll start, thinking a little bit more positively as we get nearer the end of the week. We'll have our review. We'll let the players see what they didn't do and what they did but wasn't efficient enough to win this game, although we did battle. So you've got to give credit because it really was a battle out there, and we wasn't shrinking violets, and but we didn't quite see it to the end because of their last few minutes pressure.
Thanks for your time.
No problem.
You mentioned cup finals there. Is that what you see? Certainly the Orient and the Notts County game as now.
Well, they're 6 pointers, aren't they? So we'd be well pleased if it really was 6 points going for it. And at Notts County, I'm sure they've got a decent surface where you can play a little bit more football on. If you go, it don't look too bad for me, but if you go out there, I'm not blaming the pitch at all but what I'm saying is, it was an ugly game because there's no other way. The ball's, popping up in the air all the time and skoo whiffing off the outside of your foot. And the only ones that could kick it properly were the goalkeepers who kicked it out of their hands. You know what I mean? So, but we've got to be good on this pitch. I've got to make it a place where we enjoy playing the longer game, and other teams that want to come here and play, they'll find it difficult, of course, and hopefully we'll be able to nick it off them and play the right game on it. But away from home, obviously, you're going to need to play a little bit more football.
I know it's had a lot of games on it, and it's still got a lot of games on it. But have you given a thought to maybe the odd training session here just to get used to it, or is that just going to be too much problem? No,
we don't want it. We don't want to absolutely ruin it. I mean, if you look at Newport's pitch, that's gone. That's proper gone. This one, it's divotty and it's cut up and all that sort of thing, but at least there's a little bit of grass on it, sort of thing, whereas we don't want to make it an absolute quagmire. But what you can't do is roll the ball along the floor and expect to play, an expansive sort of passing game. It's not going to happen. It won't happen. Although it doesn't stop people not using the ground and putting it a little bit higher and giving quality into people, and then those people holding it up and us getting combinations. So we'll be working on that a little bit, where we're driving it over the surface as opposed to through it.
You mentioned a bit before the game about Tin, how he was en route to the airport to pick his parents up when he got the call. Genuinely that late he was called into action today.
Well, it was late last night. I was just settling down and watch the football, and Gav told me, Gav Crowe, physio, that Danny was struggling and he didn't feel he'd be able to play. So I hadn't spoke to him at that point. I left him a message on his German phone, found out he had or Austrian phone, found out that he had another English phone, so I left a message on that. Eventually got him later that night, and he was fine. He knew his parents were coming in, whether he was picking them up or not, or whether they were on their way in. I'm not quite sure where he was. But anyway, he rang me, and I said, "Be ready for tomorrow. I'll confirm it in the morning."
And just unflappably, he said, "Yeah, fair enough."
Unbelievably, and you know, his mum and dad were really pleased because they've been able to see his league debut. They would have gone to Bristol City, of course, to see the club that he signed for, and ended up coming to little old Cheltenham, which is great. And I'm sure they would have enjoyed his very steady performance.
And after today, is it the same case as
Yeah, it's the same.
Dan O'Shaughnessy's fine next week?
Yeah.
Tin will be back at Bristol City.
Yeah, but we know we've got him. We didn't expect to bring him in so soon, so I ain't even thought about that yet. You know, like it was always going to be later on if we had lots of injuries and things. But the fact it was a left-sided centre half it would have been stupid not to have bring him in. So that's what I've done, and you know, he'll obviously we'll have to wait and see what the next team I pick is.
Excellent.